Warm greetings to you, my misfit friends. Or at least I have to assume that you're misfits, since I don't know why the hell you'd bother watching this if you felt already accepted and comfortable in a Norman paradigm. This is the 13th video in my Plant Healer series, and I do sincerely hope that you've been finding some helpful information as well as inspiration here. If so, I'd of course appreciate your subscribing to the Herb Rally channel that so kindly hosts me. And you can help me reach a lot more people if you mash the like button, leave comments, and especially if you share the links to each of these videos on your own personal social media. Now let's get to it. All my life I've been an advocate, not just an advocate for wilderness and for herbs and for plants and for justice issues, but an advocate for all outsiders, for all of you oddballs and for the marginalized, for all folks who through no fault of their own get rejected or sidelined by society. Now this can look differently depending on the person and whatever role that they might seek to play, but let's just take herbalists as one example. Healers who work with plant medicine were highly respected and valued for literally thousands of years. But then they were increasingly dismissed, starting with the institutionalization of healthcare and the hegemony of pharmaceuticals. Even now, with herbal preparations getting hugely popular again, herbalists are still considered by many in society to be charlatans or freaks, seen as either old-fashioned throwbacks or else alt-culture weirdos. Herbal accreditation and professional organizations are, at least in part, a reaction to the fact that herbal practitioners have been treated like virtual fluff cakes by the medical establishment for a long time now. But even these beneficent herbal organizations can themselves be inadvertently adding to the ostracization of some people, at least to the degree that they discredit uncertified folk healers as if they're something other or lesser. You know, I personally don't feel sorry for the marginalized, so much as I care about them and admire them. I see in them stories often far more interesting than the commonly accepted narratives of the populace. There's much to be appreciated about the very qualities and characteristics that make it so extra difficult for them and for me, perhaps for you, to fit in. But this doesn't mean that we actually enjoy feeling excluded or that we chose our place always on the far outskirts. The marginalized are, in general, shoved to the edges for a number of reasons, but it's seldom because they actually want to be. Similar to what the system does with products on an actual conveyor belt in a factory, anyone who deviates from the standard or from the template can be considered flawed and tossed aside before societal packaging. Misfits, on the other hand, are often making a conscious choice to reside on the margins. We're seeing it more as a magical hedge, as the boundaries and the entranceways to an other world of possibility and reimagining. We misfits are marginalized, of course, but marginalized with the addition of agency and attitude. We tend to feel good about growing ourselves without bending to external rules and templates. We often take pride in being labeled as different and get a kick out of breaking the mold, as they say. It might feel like our calling or our dream to sculpt an identity in a life that sets us apart, or it may simply feel like it's worth it to be our true selves no matter what. Uncomfortable as it makes us, no matter what challenge it presents, no matter what penalties or what costs. You know, just this morning I was speaking to a dear friend of mine, Ashley Ellenbass, a teacher at our Good Medicine gatherings. She has her own website here, a channel here on YouTube called Skyhouse Herbals. And she was asking me just this morning about risk and what that entails. When is risk wise and when isn't? And I answered that risk is, in fact, inevitable. It's just a matter of whether we're aware of it and embrace it, or whether it sneaks up on us and surprises us and we're always in fear of the unknown. There's obviously a lot of risk paid for being an outlier of any kind. Whether we're a deliberate maverick or not, it's still risky. Anytime a person is not a typically functioning part of some machine, there's many of that machine's benefits that we're simply not going to have. There's no help wanted listings for unique job descriptions and for your previously unheard of approaches. And of course, there's fewer options for earning a steady income for anyone like you who brings unusual interests and unusual talents to the table. Supposedly individualistic art and individualistic music, they're a lot harder to market to people because they don't easily fall into a known genre or an existing trend. We may be penalized as healers for being neither a typical professional nor just a corporate hireling. We might be denied funding because of our beliefs. We might get fired from some needed day job because of how we dress or wear our hair. We might be shamed for not belonging heart and soul to but a single major religion, or for not being totally in either one political camp or another. There's no getting around it. It can sometimes feel lonely at the edges. But oh, the benefits. Being on the edge has benefits like honoring yourself by being able to honor your deepest needs, honoring your particular, even your peculiar gifts, honoring your visions. It comes with benefits like no longer having to repress or submerge your most real identity, your true personality, your beliefs or aims or missions. It has benefits like getting to choose doing what feels right to you, rather than just doing what some authoritative entity requires of you. Benefits like no longer having to compromise your ethics or your tastes in order to fit in, like never having to feel like a round peg in a square hole, and never again having to deny some essential part of yourself just to be accepted or approved. There's an old saying that describes basically anyone who's going their own way, and that is marching to a different drummer. What I prefer to say is someone dances to a different drummer, since marching requires us taking orders and all getting in step with one another, whereas even the most controlled, choreographed dance is at its core a fluid and a very personalized expression of who we are, how we feel, and what we care about. Being considered strange can be like the opening steps of our individual signature dances, a dance of the exceptional and the extraordinary, a dance of the distinctive and the remarkable, of the unpredictable and the uncanny, the memorable and the unmistakable. Think about it just for a minute, please. Natural health cares and natural care healthcare practice and herbalist practice of all types have been dissed as unconventional and yet have proven to be some of the very most effective. Indeed, the most effective medicines are often formulas and protocols that are not generic and standardized, but uniquely tailored to each and every client. Being considered weird can be more of a matter of being puzzling and bedazzling. And that's true of us as well as for our creations and medicines. Incongruous is not only uncommon, but fortunately irregular, custom, personal. And as soon as we figure this out, being considered an oddball or a misfit starts to sound like a compliment. Now, this is not to say that we can't ever hope to belong. I'm not saying that at all. It's natural and it's right to wish to belong, but not to some mass, but rather to a shared union, belong to a clan that's centered around a set of values, belong to a field of shared interests, an alliance of purposes, a sharing of knowledge and skills, a dedication to a certain danceable sound, a style or look, or a beautiful wished-for result. And regardless, the healthy way to fit into anything is just like with a kid's puzzle, with each and every piece unique and different from all the rest. And yet, with there being a way in which each piece's particular exacting curves, its inimitable recesses and protrusions can virtually key into all those pieces surrounding it. That's belonging. And yet, we easily may feel outside of things, marginalized, or even isolated. And yeah, we may feel lonely from time to time. But believe me, we are never alone. We are united as plant healers by our love for nature, by our love for plants and their lessons. We're naturally brought together by our overwhelming desire to help ease the suffering of others, to help make the world a better place. And beyond those obvious alliances of aims, we're also integral elements, each of us, elements of something truly unusual and valuable. Each of us with our own home bases, our own ways of serving, our own ways of contributing, our own thoughts and visions, our own forms and angles, rhythms and tones. But in the end, you and I, we're part of a league of misfits and medicine makers. We're the delighted deviants, vital participants in a caring and creative coalition of culture shifters, the devoted lifelong members of what is truly a marvelous misfit tribe.